And we're back at it. Good to have you with us, folks. Mike Siegel in as we move along here at the Federation for American Immigration Reform Hold Their Feet to the Fire event based at the Phoenix Park Hotel in Washington, D.C. It's a pleasure to have you with us and really to get some of this conversation about immigration reform off the mat and into the Congress. The president's done a great deal, but obviously Congress has to do more, certainly in my view. We're joined by Dale Wilcox, Executive Director of the Immigration Law Reform Law Institute, I should say. I want to get it backwards. And they do a lot of work from the legal side of this, which is a lot to talk about. But I see that you just came out, Mr. Wilcox, with the report that in the last 4 years, 39 million cases of stolen identity theft by illegal aliens of Americans, causing harm to those 39 million. Most of those get resolved, but it's anguishing and it's frustrating and it's time-consuming, sometimes costly. Where did that information come from?
Well, what we did was we filed a Freedom of Information request with the Social Security Administration. And what had happened was Obama ended the no-match letters in 2012. Significant because a few days after he implemented DACA, he ended the no-match letters that used to be sent out when an employee's wage statement didn't match the name and Social Security number. It used to be government practice for decades that they would send a no-match letter to the employer and the employee and say, hey, something's not right here. Well, Obama ended that right after he instituted DACA so that we believe the DACA recipients wouldn't receive those no-match letters so that they wouldn't be scared to sign up for DACA because it's a federal felony to use someone else's Social Security number to get a job.
So therefore, you have these people taking people's Social Security numbers. It happened to me. I had one year, my income tax was filed by somebody else under my Social Security number. And when I went to do it, I used TurboTax. They rejected it. So it took me, I had to go down to the IRS, and I sat there for several hours, and he asked me very precise questions that only I would know. You know, did I ever have a mortgage at such and such a place? Did I ever have an address at such and such a place? And it went on for hours, and then it took probably 6 months to resolve it. I mean, it's fine now. They give me every year a coded number.
Right. I've heard this story again and again. Many Americans are being audited because the IRS is seeing two tax returns and saying, or actually the individual who owns the number is not reporting the income that someone else is making. So then the IRS finds out about it and you get audited. And sadly, children are the biggest victim to this scam. Children are 51 times more susceptible to having their identity stolen. And what happens a lot of times is illegal aliens will take the identities of kids who for years won't apply for credit. So they won't be discovered for years. Well, when the kid goes to get a car loan or a student loan, all of a sudden they discover, wow, you've got a mortgage, you've got bad credit, you have a criminal history. This is unacceptable, and the government has turned a blind eye to this just to accommodate DACA youth.
It's really frustrating because what we know is that the border is insecure. We know that the laws are not being enforced. We know that the agencies are being embattled to the point that now they're being told by some people, we want to put you out of business. So let me ask you about the law, because you're a law reform institute. I'm not sure we need legal reform. We need to have a new law on immigration generally. But already there is a Title 8, Section 1325 of the U.S. Code already says first offense is a misdemeanor, second offense a felony for entering without authorization into the United States. You could get 6 months on a first offense and 2 years on a second offense. You don't have, it's not required, but you could. So the law's there, but nobody's enforcing it. Nobody has ever enforced it.
Well, I agree. The laws on illegal entry and illegal reentry are rarely ever prosecuted. They need to be. But in regards to identity theft, Congress needs to get off its butt and pass mandatory E-Verify. The jobs magnet is the reason this is going on. That's why identities are being stolen, because the illegal aliens need the Social Security numbers of Americans to be able to get a job, be able to work. So if Congress would institute E-Verify nationally, which is a simple government online free database that the employer can put in the prospective employee's information, they immediately get back a notice whether they're authorized to work or not. And it compares the name, social security number, age, and different biographical data that would prohibit this type of identity theft.
Well, when I was on the air in Miami in 1980 and 81, we did a major campaign because we had the Mario boat lift. Mm-hmm. And the Mariolitos came in, and I did a piece for the Miami Herald, Save Our South Florida, and we gave out the phone number to the White House. And ultimately, in 84, 3 years later, the Simpson-Mazzoli bill was turned into an amendment to another law signed by President Reagan, which then required employers to make sure people were legally in the country. But it was again, that was never enforced. And in cases where it would be enforced, members of Congress would go to the at that time Immigration and Naturalization Service and say, lay off this company.
Yeah, we'll see.
So there's no will to do it.
Yeah, the process you're talking about is currently in place. It's called the I-9 process. So what happens is when an employee joins your company, you are to look at certain documents, and you write those down, take a copy of them, put them in a file in your drawer. You don't check with the government to make sure they're valid. You just put them in a file, and then you might get audited. But as we saw under the Obama years, audits dropped to practically nothing. Thankfully, under President Trump's administration, auditing of these companies has gone way back up.
Yeah, but the point about E-Verify is that presently it's voluntary. It should be required, and
right.
It'd be very simple to do it. Look, it would, as I understand it, would be the same thing as you go to a Walmart, you go to Costco, you go to Lowe's, whatever company you go to, Home Depot. I don't want to leave anybody out. And you use your credit card, and within, 2 seconds, it tells you whether you're approved.
Right.
Why couldn't the same technology be used with E-Verify?
Absolutely, and that's what E-Verify does. It pings off of the Social Security Administration records and then DHS records to see if the individual is work authorized. It's simple and it's free, but the opposition on both sides. You have Democrats; they want more voters, so they're for open borders, and then you have the establishment, big business Republicans who want cheap labor, undermining Americans.
But it would be a disincentive, as you point out. But the other problem is 40% of our illegal aliens in this country overstayed visas, and that's another part of the problem. So what at the Institute for Reform, your Immigration Reform Law Institute, what would you say would be laws that Congress needs to pass, essential laws or law, that would help to solve some of this problem?
Well, as I said, E-Verify is the biggest one. That's out front. Even visa overstayers, they can't get work if they can't, if they're E-Verified, they're not work authorized. So that would end the jobs magnet. So everyone coming here for a job, they wouldn't be able to work.
What about doing something at the border?
Well, absolutely. I think, as President Trump said, you need a wall. You need a funnel. A wall's not going to be 100% effective. People are always going to figure out some way around it, but at least you can slow them down. You could funnel them into an area where Border Patrol could actually handle the capacity. Absolutely. There are other small steps that can be taken. Identity theft. This is a federal felony. Congress needs to, U.S. attorneys need to start prosecuting these crimes.
So the laws are already on the books for that?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But you have these jurisdictions like California. When California passed their bill for driver's licenses for illegal aliens not too long ago, just a few years back, they specifically instructed their investigators at their driver's license branches not to investigate people who came in to get a driver's license who might have used a different Social Security number in the past to get a driver's license. So, you have these jurisdictions who are thwarting enforcement.
In other words, they want to... Well, look, San Francisco is going to have the illegals voting.
Yeah.
Is that... the argument's been made that during the time of the Lincoln presidency, illegals were voting. Do we? I've never heard this before. Do we allow illegals to vote? Should we allow illegals to vote?
Well, at that time we didn't have a comprehensive immigration law until the turn of the 20th century. So for people to say, people were illegally voting who are not in the country lawfully, I doubt that statement. But In the Constitution, it only allows citizens to vote for federal elections, so we're protected there. But whenever we try to enact reasonable legislation around the country that requires proof of citizenship to register to vote, the opposition, ACLU et al., they go nuts. They go nuts.
And that's the problem. We don't have unanimity on basic common sense ideas. You should be a citizen to vote. Most Americans would support that if we had an initiative process, which we don't. Congress has to do it. In the meantime, there's too much divisiveness in Congress, and who knows how long that's going to take. But your work is important. Keep it up. Congratulations. And Dale, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Dale Wilcox, Executive Director of the Immigration Reform Law Institute. They do great work on trying to get the laws enforced.